It's so warm. Oh my god, I haven't been out in a t-shirt in so long.
So we headed to find our Airbnb, meet our roomies Jake and Lisa and this little guy, and then headed straight to the casino and got to walk the red carpet. We ended up searching the casino for the poker rooms for ages. Up here we found the cash rooms and they kept sending us from one end to the other until we were eventually directed to the tournament rooms.
So we have 10 minutes to get in this satellite. None of us have casino cards. Can we make it? That was the biggest sweat ever, but we got in.
And so there was barely any time to scout the perimeter like a cat. Slow start to the satellite for me and then ended up losing a flip. Boring! 3 of us were knocked out but Lisa was still in the mix, so we decided to go find something else to do and ended up at the Ultimate table. I haven't played Ultimate since the Tournament of Champions in LA, and this time I had some of my own money to put on there. And this right here is the reason why I don't record at the tables. Look at that peel, it's absolutely terrible. But I ended up turning my €100 into 150, successful night, and it was back to Lisa who got her seat and still wasn't sure if she got her seat but realised she did. And then we went out for drinks and had a little celebration, even though they were doing dry January, losers. And there's some dancing and stuff. Time to go home because I'm jumping in that opener tomorrow. Now this is what we like to call a Crawford wake up. Day 2! It is so nice to be in the sun again. I'm about to head into the casino. So we headed in for level 1 into the €400 opener.
So big hand I played in the opener, so I called behind with 9-10 of diamonds. This is something I've recently been studying, that you can actually flat 9-10 of diamonds quite a lot. Super strong hand.
Quick intermission, so I'm changing the way I'm creating my hand histories. MP versus under the gun. I am in MP and they are under the gun, and 40 big blinds effective means that is the shortest stack in the hand.
Flop comes down, Queen, Jack, 2 diamonds, giving me the open-ended straight flush draw. So he bets and I end up 3xing here. You're able to go broke with this, so I just put it in. If he shoves or whatever, I can just happily call. The turn comes the 8 and he checks to me and I just decide to check back. I have the straight now and everything. The river is a 6 and he overbets. And it's most of my chips I still had a little bit behind. And I just went for the call here. I thought it was possible that you have boats, and I think this might be a little mistake because I'm definitely good here most of the time. Should have just put the extra chips in.
Oh, but then I got to knock out Jake, who shoved his pocket 3s over my pocket 7s. Does he not know it's Peggy week?
This next hand I open 9-8 of diamonds and I get a call from the small blind and the big blind. Flop was 5-6 deuce with 1 heart, giving me a backdoor flush draw and a gut shot, and I put in a c-bet 3rd pot and the small blind called and the big blind folded. So the small blind here, they're going to want to raise a lot if they have 7s and 8s and stuff like that, so I'm not too worried. Obviously they do have sets, they still have 5s and 6s, but they also have a lot of draws and a lot of overcards that they just want to see a turn. The turn is a queen and I ended up ripping for about pot and they did make the fold, which is quite nice. I'm very low down in my range with 9 high, and I also have like additional equity and outs and stuff if I do get called. I just don't think he's calling much with queen high. I think he is going to 3-bet ace queen. He might have king queen suited, but he might even 3-bet with that. So we're pretty safe to go for the jam there, and I quite like that. Okay, so I'm on the 3rd break, 77k, feeling good, feeling confident. Let's see what we can do. Okay, we are 6 away from the money. This is my first ever big bubble.
The only other bubble I played before this was on the ladies, and that was for 4th place. Same for Lisa, who was still in but unfortunately got knocked out very close to the money. But my stack was getting shorter and shorter, so I decided to just fold my way to the money, but I was super card dead anyway, so it's not like I could have done anything different. They pause the clock and make it hand for hand play, and the first all in didn't get through, and neither did the second one, and neither did the third one. Or even the 4th all in. Then I stopped watching and we made the money.
We're in the money!
You know what they say, a watch pot never boils.
So I got through the bubble with 10 bigs and I was ready to start shoving, but haven't picked up a hand. I had a borderline one, king 5 suited in the low jack, which I folded. But here we are, blinds are going up to 8k, and I'm gonna come back with 6 bigs under the gun.
I then got this crazy double up with king jack off against king jack suited, where I hit the backdoor flush draw. Then shortly after I got it in ace queen suited against ace king and lost that, so I was out.
All in a day's work.
Good morning from Morocco. I'm about to head into the casino to play my first ever live bounty tournament. €180 buy-in. If I knock someone out, it's going to be like, I want to say €40. Close, it was 50.
Just ring for good luck.
So this was a flat bounty tournament, not a PKO, meaning that the bounties are only really worth a lot at the beginning of the tournament. Once you get deeper, you're more focused on making the pay jumps and winning, rather than knocking people out and getting their bounties. Here is one where I ripped over an open and a really passive player with ace jack off, and the passive player ended up having kings, and the first guy had tens. And I managed to bink an ace, so I took 2 bounties straight away, which was amazing.
Okay, so the next hand was blind v blind, so he raises in the small blind and I call 9-10 offsuit with 1 heart. Flop is king 9-6 with 2 hearts on it, and he c-bets quite large, and I immediately am getting the sign that he's trying to bully me off this pot. If he has a king, he's going to want to keep me in. It seemed quite aggressive and quite fishy already, so I already planned to hero down quite a lot of bets on the turn and bets on the river. The turn was a 7 of hearts, so it gave me loads of equity. I've got the flush draw and the gut shot that can come in, and also a pair. He just rips over pot. And for me it was a snap call, and not just because I had loads of equity, loads of outs, and he had jack 8 with no flush draw but potential outs to beat me there, and we hold. 10 away from the money, and I've collected 4 bounties, so I'm break even already.
Another great spot, kings against ace 7 and ace 3.
Can I get the cash as well? 2 bullets, 2 cashes, can it be done?
So we got to the bubble and I was sitting on a pretty decent stack, so I wasn't too worried. And then the bubble broke.
We lost the player, guys. Congrats, you're all in the money.
Woo! Under the gun open, I had 10s in the small blind with 18 bigs, and I shove, and he calls with aces, and shout out to Hugo because he then took down the tournament after that, so I'm glad you did something good with my chips.
Another successful day, another min cash and 4 bounties, so I cashed out €400 for that one. That's why they call me Peggy Min Cash Crawford.
Good morning. Today I am heading in to play the mini main, the 550, which is my biggest buy-in here. So can I get 3 for 3 cashes? Okay, first break, and I played no hands. It's only been half an hour though, so love me a slow start. Okay, so we're on the second break. I didn't play a hand for the first hour, so I had a bit of a nit status. Literally just card dead. And then, so I pick up ace king off under the gun, and the button flats. The flop was 10 high, and I checked here, he bet, and I called. This is see a turn. So I'd also do this here, like EP versus button, I'd do this with my aces and kings as well, and also my 10s. So then the turn comes a low card, bringing a flush draw, and so he bets again, and I put in a 3.5x raise, literally just playing into the fact that I haven't played any hands. They probably think I'm a little bit passive, and he tanks for ages, and he folds and shows the 10, so I got that through. GCO is not a fan of this line. It's going to bet its aces and kings on the flop, and it's also going to re-raise if it does decide to check them, so you should come to the turn with no aces, meaning that once he bets fairly large on the turn, you should mostly just be folding ace king. However, because of my image, I knew I was capable of getting a 10 to fold, so I went for it. And then I flatted 10-9 suited under the gun +1, and the flop comes down 10-9-6. So the small blind and the big blind are in there as well. It checks around to me. I put in the third pot bet. The button, who's the most aggro guy at the table, puts in the raise, and I just power jam it in here. Gonna do it with my flush draws as well, and he calls with jack 8 suited for the mega draw, open-ended straight flush draw, and somehow I managed to hold, so I got that one through for a full double. So yeah, looking pretty good. Going back now with 75k, which is going to be 75 big blinds. Easy math level, you know. This next hand is a really interesting one. So mid position opens, I call queen 8 offsuit in the big blind. We're about 35 bigs at this point. The flop comes down jack 4-4 with 2 spades. I have the queen of spades. I decide to put in the check raise to 3x. He might be betting this flop with his entire range, so there's a lot of stuff that I can get to fold from my check raise, but he does call. The The turn is a 9. So this is definitely a barrel card for me, bringing the straight outs, the gut shot to the straight. So I size up, making it so that I've got pot size to jam on the river, and he calls once again. The river is an ace, so this is an interesting one because I don't think he has much ace-x in his range apart from aces or ace-jack. So there's not too many combos of ace, so this can be a proper scare card for him. If he's got a pair of jacks or if he's got queens or kings, this ace isn't good. Some of my bluffs like ace-5 are going to get there on the river. So I decided to go for the jam. Now I wasn't sure if this was the best card to jam on the river. So I actually quite like it, and I put this into GTO, and it's not a line they take a lot, but if you do get there, it's 0 EV, all in, or give up. But the thing is, GTO is never folding kings there, or queens, or most of its jack-x. He came to me afterwards, and at this point I'd moved tables, and he's like, were you bluffing in that hand? And I was like, yeah, sorry mate. I was like, did you fold a jack? And he goes, no, I folded pocket kings. So like, wow, that's crazy. So if there's a chance that he's folding his kings and queens there, it's definitely a profitable bluff. I managed to chip up nicely before the end of the break, where I got to be the chip raiser.
Always a nice feeling when you both get to do the chip raise.
Chip raise is a good thing.
I just did mine.
This hand I open king 10 suited mid position, the small blind and the big blind come along. The flop was 10-8 for all clubs. Checks through. I mean to bet 1/3, but I accidentally drop a chip. And when you do this, it means that it's technically only the smallest denomination. So I bet 1.2k. The small blind raised it up to 5k. So I'm not going anywhere yet. The big blind folds and I call. The turn was a jack and he goes third pot again and I call one more time. The river was a 5, not bringing in another club, and he bets 70% pot. So I was just thinking here, I'm not sure if I really beat all of his bluffs get there. He's going to want to raise things like queen 10, jack 10. If he's raising jack 9, that gets there. Any jack that he's raising as a bluff originally, that's going to get there on the turn. So I'm quite happy to lay this down. I think that was a pretty easy one. If I'm playing against the big blind, for example, they're going to have things like ace 4 with the ace of clubs that they're going to bluff there. But I think the small blind range isn't going to have many bluffs.
So it was very up and down for me. This was funny. The cards kept getting stuck under the leather and people had to try and get them out. And as we got closer and closer to the bubble, I was getting shorter and shorter. And I was getting a bit worried because this was my biggest ever buy-in at that point.
Okay, we're on the bubble, we're 6 away. I'm right there with the knit stack. We've got 15 bigs. We min cash and we bag up for day 2. So just need to get through this last bit.
Holding on.
Yeah. That was an open from a really sound player, shout out Fabian. And I looked down at pocket queens. We are probably 3 away from the money at this point, but I have 10 bigs and I still want to keep building a stack. It's too strong in my range and he's opening quite a lot. He's got a big stack. So I do shove and he's got pocket 9s and we hold for the double. And then after the queens, I pick up pocket jacks and I open late position. The big blind comes along. The flop is 9 high. So I c-bet a third and he calls. The turn is an 8. So now I want to pot control it a little bit because he does cover me and we're still 5 away from the money. So I just check back. Normally I would just double barrel this all day, but I didn't. I checked back and the river was a deuce pairing the board. He goes small, kind of a block bet. I call off and he shows the 10s. So we pick up another pot.
So once again, the bubble burst and I was bagging up a very healthy looking stack for day 2.
Can I get a thumbs up, baby? Woohoo!
And this was me checking that I was writing the right stuff on there. It says a lot.
655 or like
Red carpet time! Day 2, day 2, day 2. So we were getting towards the money and I asked the guy on my left, I said, shout out if you're watching the vlog by the way. I asked him, oh, do you know what the min cash is? And he goes, oh, the min cash is the minimum cash you'll get if you get into the money.
That's so
And the whole table lost it. I was like, no, I mean, what is this min cash? I'm not that bad at poker.
Good morning. I'm about to go head in and play day 2 of the mini main. I'm coming back with 30, maybe 25 bigs. I'm really excited, a bit nervous. I still gotta believe in myself and I can take this down. So day 2 went horribly. I chipped down from 30 bigs to around 15 and I finally picked up ace king. I ended up getting it in against ace king and jack 9. The jack 9 had 2 bigs, but they somehow won and chipped off my stack again. Another 2 big blind shove and I called off in the big blind and lost. And eventually I was down to about 5 bigs and lost ace jack to ace 3. And that was it. It was over. The dream is dead in the mini main. But I got 3 ladders with playing barely any hands, so we'll take that, you know? It's a decent cash. So then I went and found Lisa and we went for a wander into the markets, had a coffee, had a look around, and we bought ourselves matching bracelets. How cute, right? We decided that by this time next year we'll be able to afford real ones. We then had a look at what could have been, and I got to show her my favourite game, video poker. And then we went outside to go and film some content, which ended up going terribly, but we had a lot of fun. Good morning, it's Ladies' Day! So far I've had 3 for 3 cashes, which has actually doubled my Hendon overall cashes up to 6. And today we probably have the best chance of getting a ring because it'll be a smaller field with the ladies. I reckon there'll be over 100 entries though. So me and Lisa headed down to the casino. I was so sad that I had to give away my beautiful 10,000 dirhams chip, but I had to buy it. And in the end there were only 37 entries into this ladies event. Okay, coming back from the first break. I've been going a bit too hard. I'm going to calm down a bit.
So this first hand in the ladies was against a friend from Birmingham. I opened 7-8 off on the button. 150 big steep, so it's probably a bit too loose thinking back, but I thought I could play quite well post flop. But we'll see about that. Flop comes down queen 10 6. I'm going to c-bet this board a lot here. Definitely have a range advantage here and ace queen and all that stuff. So I go just over half pot and she calls. The turn was a 3 and I have my my gut shot, and it's a rainbow board. Got to have some bluffs coming from non-flush draw hands. I size up here on this 3 and I go around 80% pot. She calls once again, and the river was a 5, so pretty much a brick. I figured this has got to be one of my bluff combos. I'm still going to want to get value from queens and stuff like that. I went for it here, half pot. She ends up calling with 6-3 suited, which is absolutely fine. You're so deep, you don't really want to raise that. I could have 2 pair and sets here, so fair play. Not sure about it. I think I should have chosen a better combo to bluff with there, but it's fine. So on the flop, GTO likes to choose between a few sizings, third pot, and also pot and an overbet size. Then when we get to the turn, it likes to overbet its entire range. This is including all combos of the 8-7 off. If we get to the river with 8-7 off, it likes to bet around 2/3 pot. There are no give-ups, so it actually loves the bluff here. I think I went a little bit too heavy on bluffing in the early stages. I should have just played a bit more safe at the beginning, but I wanted to show aggression and put the pressure on from the get-go. That was my plan and I kind of stuck to it. Okay, so this next hand in the ladies, I open mid-position with king 9 of hearts. The small blind and the big blind come along. Flop is 7-5 deuce 1 heart, but a rainbow board. I'm going to check this back quite a lot, even though I do have all the over pairs. It's very dry and it's hard to get value. I check back here, it checks through. The turn is the jack of hearts, bringing in the flush draw. The small blind checks again, and the big blind leads out for third pot. I put in the call here. I've got the flush draw, and I also have evil intentions for the river. The river comes a 10 and she now checks. Now I can apply max pressure. Often it's not good to bluff with your missed flush draws, but I don't block the ace high flush draw, which she's going to have a lot of. She's going to have kind of ace 3 of hearts, stuff like that, and I can definitely get that to fold. So I put in a kind of a sizable bet, almost pot size. Kind of wanted to polarize a little bit, like I've got pocket jacks, and she tanks for ages. She starts asking me, she's like, will you show if I fold? And I just said nothing. Thinking back, maybe I could have just been like, yeah, whatever. But if you're consistent and just don't reply to those, it's fine. So I just stared at the board. She eventually makes the call. And then I did a really stupid thing. I mucked my hand because I was like, I was pretty tensed up and I just threw the hand away. And she then mucks her hand, so I don't know what she had, but I reckon she had a jack. But I quite like that line because having the king in my hand, it blocks some of her king jack that's going to call, her king jack off, and also jack 9, it blocks that. Her bluffs are going to come from things like queen 10, which is going to hit the 10 on the river. So she's going to have some 10x here that I can get to fold. Definitely would get an ace high flush draw to fold. I don't want to go check down on the river. I just thought I could apply max pressure, and I mean, when someone tanks for 2 minutes, you definitely, it's definitely a good thing. So it's fine. Okay, so I'm on dinner break. I didn't get a bluff through. And now I'm down to 20 bigs. We'll keep going. Need to refocus, keep my head in the game, and it's going to be fine. After dinner, I won an all-in king queen off against jack 10 suited. And then I started chipping up.
And then I got it in ace queen off v10s for a flip for an absolutely huge stack, and I lost. And if I'd won that flip, I would have had a huge stack in a field I was very confident against, and things might have ended differently. So 17th place in the ladies, the cashing streak had ended, and instead of going home I had to wait around for Blaze to finish, who was nearing the final table off the PLO. 3:30, and I'm just wandering around to try and keep myself awake, because there's still 11 left, so this could go on for a very long time. They were meant to play till they got a winner, but they ended up bagging with 7 left after the one guy who didn't want to go home got knocked out in 8th place at around 4:30 in the morning. Good morning. So today Blaze is playing his final table. I'm getting a bit of main FOMO. I wasn't planning on playing the main because it's a 1350, but they have a satellite at 9 o'clock tonight, so I might go and play that. Blaze ended up going out in 7th. He missed out on a ladder after a big stack open and folded to a 7 big blind shove. I don't play PLO, but even I know that's bad. So then he jumped into the main and I jumped into the main event satellite for the next day. So in the main satellite, I got off to a really good start. I got a double up straight away, and then I played a huge pot. There was an open from under the gun I called with Queen Jack suited mid position and the big blind 3-bet super large. Under the gun called, and so did I. The flop came down Queen 5-5 and the big blind just rips all in 2.5x pot. Under the gun got out of the way, and then it was to me to call. The reason why this was such a big decision for me is because in a satellite your chips are just so valuable. I could have folded this and easily kept my stack and spun it up. We weren't close to the ticket, but I was thinking I can find a better spot than this. So I decided to try and get some information out of him, and I said to him, "You wouldn't want to knock me out, would you?" And he's like, "No, of course not. Any of these guys I'd like to knock out, but a pretty girl like you I definitely want to keep in." And to me it wasn't screaming like he wanted a call, so that kind of helped with my thought processes. As I broke it down, I kind of realised that he's not going to be doing this with aces and kings and a set of queens. But for me it was kind of a similar decision to if I did have pocket 8s, pocket 9s, because it's like he's either full of shit or he's just doing something crazy. But very, very occasionally you will get a fish who will just open jam aces or do something crazy like that because they're just going to get so many non-believer calls, or even ace queen off. Like, he's going to want to get thin value because he's not really scared of this board. Neither of us have a 5. I tanked for ages. I actually got the clock called on me for the first time ever. And as soon as the guy came over and he said something to me, I decided to make the call. I just wanted to make sure my thought process was sound and that this was a good call, and he had Jack 10 offsuit. It was pretty much dead to me. So I got a huge double there. Yeah, sorry mate. And then for the rest of the satellite, I played pretty safe, won a few more pots, and we got closer and closer to the ticket. So at a certain point I decided to play 0 hands, until a guy who shoved 5 bigs under the gun, and I looked down at pocket kings in mid position. Now this was a bit of a decision for me because this was 2 away from the tickets and I was about 90% certain I could get a ticket. In the end I just threw it away and he was like, "Thank you," and I was like, "Yeah, you're probably welcome." But I think at that point I was being so certain you're going to get a ticket, there's just no point in risking it and putting yourself in that danger zone. Oh, and so at the end there was a guy who was really, really short and he got moved tables into the big blind, and then a few minutes later he got moved tables again when it broke straight into the big blind, and he was really, really not happy. Understandable. So he was forced in and 2 people called it, and they kind of went for the slow roll. Like, lady shows over her pair and then the guy shows over his pair of aces and he just mucked his cards and ran out.
I got the ticket, so I am playing my biggest buy-in ever tomorrow. Yeah, I'm so happy. Let's go.
How you feeling today, Pegster?
I'm feeling good. The field's not that hard, so I feel confident.
What's going to be the stack at the end of the day?
What have you got?
69k.
70k. Wish me luck.
Good luck.
Okay, so we had a bit of a shit one to start with. So early position opened, there was a call from mid position and I had pocket queens on the big blind. Now we're 300 bigs deep, and yeah, I'm not an expert at playing this deep, but I think putting in a squeeze is fine here. I'm out of position and there's 2 players. So I squeeze first guy, then 4 bets. I'm like, okay, the caller gets out of the way, and I come along to see the flop. Flop is 7 high, which I'm like, great. And he c-bets, I call,
turn is an 8, so still got an overpair. He c-bets again, and then the river is another 7, so it's paired the board, but doesn't really play in. The flush comes in, but he doesn't really have any suited hands. He rips all in for like 2/3 pot, and I basically just thinking like okay, what is his player type? Because maniacs are going to find bluffs here, and super pros are going to find bluffs here as well. Ace-5 suited, maybe even ace-king. But I think he's kind of like in the middle of that group where he is just going to play pretty standard, and here he is just going to have aces. So anyway, I ended up making the fold, and I think it was a good fold, to be honest. But it kind of sucks, I lost half my stack, but still in there. Right, so second break, we've managed to chip back up to starting stack. I had this guy who was like a mega whale, so super rich guy, literally going all in with 3 deuce, 5, 3 offsuit, 3 times to open ripping it. And then one time he does it again, and he's got aces, and he knocks 2 people out, and then he's got this huge stack. Everyone's trying to take chips off him, but it didn't work, so yeah, let's go back. Let's have some fun.
So then I was card dead for a little while, and then I open king queen off in the hijack, and the big blind comes along. The flop is 7 high. Now, I can bet this, but this wasn't one of my combos that I wanted to, so I checked back. The turn is a 2 and she bets half. At this point, I'm a non-believer. She has so many overcards that are gonna want to bet and get me off an ace high or an a king high. And I call. River is another 7. A lot of 7s in this main event. And she goes half again, and I decide to hero call her. Now, the reason why is because I feel like people at a lower standard will find these kind of bluff spots a lot easier because it's an easy line to bluff. You're betting 2 streets, you're not check raising the river, you're not doing anything complicated. So I call with the king high. She goes, nice call, and shows the ace high. And everyone's like, that is the worst, when you bluff catch correctly, but you get beaten by their bluff. And I do not know why she was bluffing with ace high there, but that's the way it is sometimes. And speaking about this hand to other people, a lot of people have said, if you're just a complete non-believer, you just need to raise that river and not take the risk of bluff catching and losing to a better bluff. And this is definitely something I've learned from Morocco, because I think it happened 3 times where I bluff caught and I had like ace high and they had bottom pair or something like that. And so this is something I need to bring into my game, particularly against the fish who don't know what they're doing and are just betting a pair for no reason. Just raise them and they're going to get out of the way. And then I was kind of just chipping down for the next few levels. I went right down to a short stack and I had 6 bigs, shoved king jack suited, and got called by aces from the same lady who bluffed me with ace high. I actually think, like, reflecting, I'd lost a bit of my creativity by this point in the week. I think mainly because I've never played a full series before. But yeah, I wish I was on my A game for the main, because I might have been able to do a few things differently. And that comes to the end of Peggy Week.
Day 3!
Day 3! We're alive, baby, we're alive!
Day 3 for this guy.
11 bigs and a dream, baby.
Blaze finished 20th for 11,000 and collected his huge wad of cash.
It's time to go home. Goodbye, Morocco. It's been fun. Look at this. And this guy who did amazing finished 20th, his second deep run in a circuit main.
In a row.
Look at this little baby.
So we headed home and saw our favourite guy, and then we played a home game with Jake and Lisa. Nuts as denominations. Who is your money on? Get your votes in right now. This girl. Home games can be really interesting because you often show your cards and you can all talk about your strategy and your thought process and kind of learn as well as playing. Jake took it down in the end. I'm just glad that he got to win something this week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. I'm not even sure what's next, but there's the UK Poker Open and I'll figure out the rest.